Good evening. Thank you for joining us today for the Helping Broward Move panel discussion. The purpose of tonight's event is to raise awareness of options that are available to persons with disabilities or individuals who are no longer able to drive. If you would like to ask a question of one of our panelists, please press 0 on your phone. Or if you're using Zoom, type your question into the Q&A panel that appears down on the bottom of the screen. Again, thanks for joining us. If you'd like to ask a question of our panelists, we ask that you press 0 on your phone, or if you're using Zoom, type your question into the Q&A panel. Next, I would like to begin by introducing myself and our other esteemed guests that are part of our panel. If you'll give me just a moment. Welcome to everyone again. Very good. My name is Charlene Burke, and I'm going to be your moderator this evening. I am a principal planner with the Broward Metropolitan Planning Organization, also known as Broward MPO. I've been with the organization since 2009, and I specialize in mobility, federal transit administration grants, and I'm the program administrator for the Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board. My agency, the Broward MPO, again, or MPO, is responsible for making policy on local transportation issues and deciding how to spend federal money on transportation projects within Broward County. We work with transportation stakeholders who represent all segments of the community. The Broward MPO seeks to address overall mobility within the county, and it's based on the needs and the aspiration of our residents, businesses, and visitors. Now, I'd like to introduce our esteemed panel, and I'm going to start with my colleague, and that would be Mr. Paul Strobus. Now, Mr. Strobus is the Paratransit Director. He is with Broward County Transit, also known as BCT for short. Paul is a seasoned public transportation professional. He has 21 years of experience in providing transportation services to persons with disabilities. Paul began his paratransit career working for the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority in Boston, Massachusetts. Since 2011, Paul has successfully managed Broward County Transit's paratransit program, which is federally mandated by the Americans with Disabilities Act and by the Florida Commission for the Transportation Disadvantaged. Paul, welcome. Thank you for joining us this evening.
My pleasure.
Next, thank you, thanks. Next, I'd like to introduce Ms. Karen Diaz. Ms. Diaz currently serves as the project director of the Northwest Focal Point Senior and Adult Daycare Center that's located in Margate, Florida. Karen manages a $1 million budget of federal, state, and local funded community-based programs. The center provides transportation services to older adults in 10 cities located in the northwest quadrant of Broward County. The goal is to preserve the independence of elders residing in Broward County through recreational and educational programs. Thanks for joining us, Karen.
Thank you for having me.
Next, I'd like to introduce Danielle Mcgill. She's with the Anstork Center. She's their advocacy coordinator. The Anstork Center is a private nonprofit organization dedicated to serving children and adults with developmental disabilities. Danielle Mcgill is always striving for independence. She was born with cerebral palsy and has overcome many obstacles, but that has not let life's challenges define her. As the advocacy coordinator at the Anstork Center, Danielle developed the A Right-of-Way program. The program assists individuals with disabilities in navigating various modes of transportation. Ms. McGill's compassion, experience, and tenacity enable her to identify and secure the resources individuals with disabilities need. Okay, so welcome, Danielle. A pleasure to have you with us this evening. Next, what I thought we could do is to start with Mr. Strobis. Paul, if you could just give us a few minutes to explain for our participants what paratransit is.
Certainly. So we provide a vital service to seniors, individuals with disabilities by providing countywide transportation services to eligible individuals through a shared ride door-to-door program for individuals that may have a physical, cognitive, emotional, visual, or any other disability which would functionally prevent them from taking the Broward County Transit fixed route bus system. Our program, known as TOPS, means transportation options. So we're able to provide these door-to-door transportation services for those that aren't able to transport themselves. Additionally, we're able to provide through a state transportation disadvantage grant access to bus passes to some of our disadvantaged population with low income that may not be able to afford our public transit system here in the county. Again, we have an application eligibility process for each of those for them to qualify for those programs.
Great. Paul, thank you for that introduction for our audience about what paratransit is. Next, I would like to ask Karen if she could please give us a brief explanation of what she does at the Northwest Focal Point Center, including what the services are that it provides. If you could perhaps talk about your client experiences with TD and your role as a contract coordinator that works closely with the CTC, the Community Transportation Coordinator, our folks over at TOPS Paratransit.
Yes, thank you, Charlene. The Northwest Focal Point Senior Center provides transportation, actually provides all kinds of services, but one of the most requested services is transportation. And we have clients that are completely independent, which are those that attend the senior center section. And we have clients that are more, they are impaired in different levels, cognitively or physically, that are in the adult daycare service in the program. The center provides, in general, socialization opportunities, exercise opportunities, educational opportunities, health talks, and so on. Our experience with, we are one of the TOPS providers under the ILA contract with Broward County. And we are a great supporter and promoter of the TOPS service, because it is really one of the best options for an older adult. It always takes a little bit of time for an individual to give up their vehicle in order to, use this kind of transportation, because they always think, well, I'm losing my independence. But that's where we step in and make them realize that actually they're gaining more independence by joining TOPS, because now they can go out at night, which normally they can't because they can't see well. And I have seen TOPS people going even to the theater, and the TOPS vehicles at theater places, or they have more opportunities to go, for example, to a faith-based activity on Sundays, Saturdays, whenever that happens. So we promote it greatly because we think it's a great option for older adults. And the drivers, it's a system that has been polished over and over again. Of course, there's always little faults here or there, but we are human. We are all human, and there's factors like weather or others that school zones and things that might bring in delays. But overall, it's a great system. It's a great option, and the drivers, most of them are very careful with their passengers. So even a person that is not totally cognitive, the family members, the caregivers can rely on that system, that their loved one is going to be transported from home to the center and back home in a timely manner, and they might be working and they might not be able to do that transportation, and that helps them, feel have peace of mind and send their loved ones to to our facility and any other facility that's out there that provides services to older adults. And like I said before, it provides them the opportunity also, besides to coming to our center, to do other activities outside of our schedule, which can be later in the afternoon or evening or even on the weekends. So overall, I think it's a great system. And I really hope, and we try to convince most of the people to use it. It takes a time because, of course, we as humans we like to run around and be independent, but sometimes, health and the body starts taking its toll, and that's a great solution for our older adults.
Karen, thank you so much for that. Paul, thank you for your leadership at Paratransit for making all that possible. Let me switch screens here for just a moment, and I will catch us back up on track with our schedule. Great. Well, we cannot forget our third and important guest, our esteemed guest. Danielle, it is your turn. We would love to have you explain for us what you do at the In-Store Center and why this topic is important to you. Perhaps you can also talk to us about your personal experiences as a person with disabilities and what transportation disadvantage means to you.
Well, before I began with the In-Store Center, transportation was a big issue for my parents and I. It was a big factor of how I was going to get around after high school because, like most individuals with disabilities, after the public school system is over, there is no more free trips with the school buses. So I had to figure out how am I going to get around in my community. And lucky enough, we heard about TOPS and the options that it brings to people who are with physical or mental or behavioral or any type of disability. Also the transportation disadvantage individuals, how to get around about and still be active members in our community. And with that, for me, it was the option of being able to find work, go to work safely and back at the time when I first started paratransit in 2005. And I've been a paratransit user for over almost 20 years, I would say, 15 years. So I've seen the paratransit system grow over time and how many people it has helped. So for me, transportation is a key factor in everyone's life because it helps us to get to where we want to go in life. And to have paratransit and to have many of the other options that are available in Broward, like Tri-Rail, the fixed route system, the water taxi, the Bright Line, the paratransit system brings you to all those different modes of transportation as well, safely. And you don't feel stuck using one mode all the time. But with the paratransit system, I feel it brings more of a more personal feeling when you're on the bus, when you're using the paratransit system, and with the drivers, it builds a relationship with the drivers and the passenger. It also shows independence because you have to know where you want to go, but it also allows you to be able to identify what are the best places to go in your community, what is safe, what is not, and to have that extra person on board with you, like your driver, that you could depend on, knowing that you're going to be safe wherever you go. It it makes riding comfortable, and it makes it comfortable for the passenger and for the caregivers and for the parents. So that's what I find when I ride. I feel comfortable. So there are times where, there's hiccups along the way, but you have to find um, a, a greater medium. You have to work with the system that you're using. Sometimes there's busier times, and then there's not so busy times. Like, let's say Fridays are their most busiest because it's closer to the weekend versus Monday and Tuesday, where it's a lighter passenger load. You got to know the ins and outs and really use the system to really get the rhythm of how they operate. That's my advice to passengers, is really ride the system and get to know the whole system as a whole and not piece by piece.
Sorry about that. This is the world of Zoom. I needed to unmute myself. Danielle, thank you so much for that wonderful personal experience share with our audience. Really appreciate that. It says a lot. It's encouraging, it's motivating. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your inspiration for us all. I have some additional information I am going to share with the group. I want to remind everyone, let me switch screens here, that if you would like to participate, we ask that you press 0 on your phone, just a little housekeeping here. And if you are participating in the Zoom platform, you can type a question into the Q&A panel that's located on the bottom of the Zoom screen. Any questions that you have for our panelists, simply press 0 on your phone, or if you're using the Zoom platform, please type your question into the Q&A panel. Okay, without further delay, what I would like to do next is to let you guys know that as part of tonight's event, we are going to ask the audience 4 questions so that we can understand who are we connecting with tonight. We're going to start with 2 questions at first. And to participate in this poll, what we would like for you to do, you're going to have to be connected by way of your telephone, and you will use the keypad on your phone to provide your answer. So you're just going to push the button on your keypad on your phone when the question comes up for the poll. So believe that for the folks that are participating in Zoom, if you would like to, you're welcome to use the Q&A portion to post information in there as well. Okay, if you give me just a moment, we'll switch screens back. I'll get that poll started, and then we can get your participation. Give me one moment. Oh, great. Somebody beat me to it. It looks like the poll is already up. Very good. Thank you for your assistance. Okay, so the first question of the 2 in the poll is, where in Broward are you located? If you're located east of Interstate 95, that'll be 1. If you're located between University Drive and Interstate 95, 2. If you're west of University Drive, 3. We'll give a moment for the poll to process, and then we'll get a response for that. And just so you know, our hosts and our panelists, we're not voting in this. This is for you. All right, let me check another screen here, see if I'm missing anything. Okay, I'm going to repeat the question for everyone one more time. And I believe you're going to press 1. I apologize if I have not already stated this, If you're participating in the event, you can press 1 at any time for Spanish. If that is incorrect, Sean, anyone else, please let me know, and I will go ahead and start the question.
Actually, Charlene, this is Sean. I was just going to say that if you're already in the English event and you want to join the Spanish event, you would actually have to hang up your telephone and dial into the Spanish event, which is toll-free 1-855-756-7520, extension 75889. Again, that number for the Spanish event is toll-free 1-855-756-7520, extension 75889. Thanks, Charlene.
Absolutely. Thanks for your assistance with that. And I just want to confirm that the poll has been started, Sean. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Very good. Okay. Are we going to see results for that before I proceed to question 2, Sean?
Well, it looks like people are joining us from a wide variety of areas. It's pretty evenly split in thirds. About a third of us are from east of I-95, a third are between University Drive and I-95, and a third are west of University Drive.
Great. Thank you for that clarification. Okay. Before we start taking questions, let's go ahead and proceed with the second question in the poll. And that question is, do you or a family member currently use paratransit services? 1 for yes, 2 for no, 3, not sure. Again, the question is, do you or a family member currently use paratransit services? 1 for yes, 2 for no, 3 for not sure. And give me one moment. We'll switch screens again here and I'll catch back up with the rest of you. Again, reminding you, if you would like to ask a question of our panelists, press 0 on your phone. If you're using Zoom, you may type your question into the Q&A panel. Okay. Looks like we've got a pop up here. 1 second, and I can see if our answers are appearing for me. One moment, folks. Okay. Let's see. We have a split on our responses. So there are folks on the call. It looks about even with yes and not sure. And then with the folks that don't, actually a majority don't. So perhaps you folks are using the fixed route transit or some other form of transportation to get around. So we hope you'll find this to be a continuing educational opportunity for you. Okay, let us check in on our time. We are on schedule. It looks like we do have some audience questions that have come in. I'm going to start with those. And we have a Robin Lee Barber from Coral Springs. She has asked the question, Sean, may I allow them to speak or do I present the question, sir?
I think you can go ahead and read Robin Lee's question aloud.
Wonderful. Robin Lee, I'm going to read this for you. Handicapped and elderly. This is the issue she's concerned about. TOPS has a long wait time for going back home, and she finds that she has pain from sitting in her wheelchair. Is there a way to change this and make the wait time less? I believe, Mr. Strobus, if that's a question that you would like to comment on, and maybe even Danielle as well, because I know she's got a lot of experience with this also.
Yeah, I'll start. So because we're a public transit system, there are certain restrictions in the delivery of service that we understand, the advanced reservations that are necessary, the time. We have to give everybody a window of time of when that vehicle is going to be there to pick somebody up. In our system, we tell everybody that we'll be there within a 30-minute pickup window for scheduling purposes, to ensure that with the vehicles that we have, that we can mix and match everybody's trip requests on a given day. And because of that, what we found early on in the program was, if we drop somebody off at a destination late in the window, if they're not at that location for a period of time, the windows start to overlap. And because we are an origin to destination service, that same driver isn't necessarily the same one that's going to drive you back home. It continues on a route. So we need to have another window for that second vehicle to come back and get you. So as a policy over time, the county's developed a requirement that you have to be at your destination for 60 minutes before you request a trip home. We understand the limitations of that. And so instead of reducing that window, what we've tried to do is create a program to enhance somebody's travel system. And so we have a program called the Router's Choice. And it complements the paratransit eligibility, where it allows you to decide when you want to be picked up, where you want to be picked up, through a subsidized ride with a local taxi service. And the county pays up to the first $18 of that trip. And so if you have a trip that you don't want to be at your destination for that 60-minute dwell time, this program was put in place to help, do that for you. So hopefully that helps.
Danielle, did you want to offer any suggestions for comfort measures from your personal experiences?
As far as comfort measures, when it comes to being in a wheelchair, I personally don't know what it's like to be in a wheelchair. I'm not going to assume I know, but I know when a passenger in a wheelchair is in the back of the bus, and sometimes it could be bumpy. So the best thing to do is to tell your driver to absolutely make sure that the straps are tightened at all angles of the wheelchair, and that your wheelchairs hold down steady before you start on your trip. That's my only suggestion with that. And I agree with Paul with what he said with the Writer's Choice. I was going to bring that up. As far as flexibility, that is a wonderful on-demand option. I've used it a couple of times, and I think the vendor is a Yellow Cab. Is that right, Paul?
Yellow Cab's one of them. We've got a couple of different taxi companies that can accept the subsidy card, but Yellow Cab's the biggest in our area.
And Yellow Cab is accessible, and they do have vans that provide ramps for wheelchair users.
That's correct.
So that's an option you might want to look into.
Great. Thank you for the additional suggestions, Danielle. Very, very helpful. Thank you very much. Okay, just a little housekeeping again. If you are joining the call, we just want to remind you that you simply press 0 on your phone to ask a question of our panelists. If you're using Zoom, type your question into the Q&A panel that's you can access at the bottom of the screen. We're now at a good point to take a break in our discussion. I just want to remind you that we're grateful to you for joining the Broward MPO's Helping Broward Move discussion. I'm Charlene Burke. I'm with the Broward MPO, and I'm joined tonight by Paul Strobus, the Paratransit Director for Broward County Transit, Karen Diaz, the Project Director for Northwest Focal Point Senior and Adult Daycare Center in Margate, and Danielle Mcgill, the Advocacy Coordinator for the Stork Center. And just one more time, if you would like to ask a question of one of our panelists, press 0 on your phone. If you're using Zoom, go to the bottom of the screen to the Q&A panel on the window, and you can type your question in there. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and move into our third question. As a reminder, to participate, you need to be connected by way of your telephone, and you can use your keypad to provide the answer. Okay, let me modify my screen a moment here. Okay, so this is our third poll question, and the poll question is, how do you currently move around Broward? How do you currently move around Broward? Press 1 if you drive, press 2 if you have a friend, excuse me, a friend or a family member drive, press 3 if you use a ride-sharing service like Uber or Lyft, press 4 if you take a taxi, and press 5 if you take public transit or a community shuttle. We'll give you a moment for that, and we'll come right back to our panel discussion and answering questions. Let me catch up with the poll here. Okay, looks like we're doing okay. One second. Thank you for your patience. Okay. I'm going to read the question one more time, and then we'll get our responses. How do you currently move around Broward? 1, drive. 2, have a friend or family member drive. 3, use a ride sharing service like Uber or Lyft. 4, take a taxi. And 5, take public transit or a community shuttle. And with that, we can go ahead and please, my team on the backside, if we can close that poll question for some results, I'd be grateful. And all right, sorry folks, catching up here, 1 second. Okay, okay, we're going to move on to another question. Thanks for your patience. Let's go ahead and pull up another question. One moment. Okay, next question I have. How do you sign up? How do you sign up for paratransit service? What's the phone number? Thank you for that question. Anita Hennigman from Hallandale. We appreciate that.
So to get an application for our service, you could call 954-357-8400. That is the Broward County Customer Service Department. They can mail you an application, or you can go to our website. All of our applications are online with information on how to fill it out and what information you may need to provide us. That web address is www.broward.org/BCT for Broward County Transit, and then select paratransit from the quick links area on the page, and it will bring you right to our website.
Great, thank you for that, Paul. We appreciate it. And I do know we have another question in the queue. 1 second, and I will bring that up. Okay, this question comes from Shirley Cyber of Lauderhill. Her son is recently disabled, and she wants to know how she can sign him up for paratransit services. Is there anything additional that you would like to offer, Paul?
No, you know, every person has to go through that eligibility process to get on board the system. Get your application in. If there's any questions, our staff can answer them. But basically what we need you to do is, you know, tell us how that disability prevents the use of the public bus system in Broward County, so we can get them signed up on TOPS.
Okay, great, thank you. In just a second, I believe we've got some more questions coming into the queue. Let's see. All right.
Charlene, I actually received a question via email. And John wanted to know, can I bring my service animal on board, TOPS and other related services?
Absolutely. Any person that is TOPS eligible can travel with a personal care attendant anytime, free of charge. If they have a service animal, absolutely. Our drivers are all trained in passenger assistance. They understand what the service animal's for. We have plenty of room on our cutaway vehicles for them. So yes, they're definitely able to bring them with them.
Thank you for that. Paul, is there a difference between a service animal and I believe they're called emotional support animals?
Yes, under the Federal Transit Association Administration, a service animal is a trained animal that performs a task for that individual. That is what we define a service animal as. Emotional support animals are not considered service animals under the FTA guidelines. While they do have standing in other areas for transit, they do not.
Thank you for that clarification. I really appreciate it. I know there have been some stories in the media with airlines, so thank you for the extra information. Would you have a question? I apologize, I don't have a name associated with it. I'm just going to go ahead and pose the question. How are public paratransit services such as TOPS different from a shuttle or a van service that may be provided by my community? For example, 55 plus neighborhoods, senior centers, assisted living facilities, home care providers, or perhaps other mobility services. Maybe we can get Karen to weigh in on this as well.
Go ahead, Karen.
Okay.
Would you like me to repeat the question, Karen?
Oh, she's muted.
Looks like Karen might be on mute.
Take your time, Karen. We'll get you back. I'll read the
Okay.
question again. Shall I read the question again for you?
Am I unmuted or no?
We can hear you fine now.
Yes, we
Okay.
can hear you.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Not a problem.
I believe it depends where that service comes from. For example, a community, I believe that service is very limited to a very strict schedule. I don't know how it works directly, let's say in Winmore or maybe in Kings Point or so, how far or not they go. We, our clients that are transported through the TOPS system, they're our members. And we provide specific transportation from home to the center and back home. And the community center probably takes them to different areas. And our service, for example, is free. We pick them up at home and they come to the senior center. It is free of charge as long as they come to a congregate meal site. I know that there's a small cost if they book the trip to some other, say a doctor or appointment or maybe a face-based reunion. But it is really a very small cost in comparison what Uber or something else would cost them. And these drivers, we know that they're all trained. They're always looking forward for safety of the passenger. All the vehicles are equipped with lifts, so they can transport anybody with or without disabilities to the facility. So that's the direct one in our center, our senior centers, how it works. I'm not sure. And the other part that is the most important part, I like to brag about it, is that our drivers know most of the patient, of the clients by name and know their their, want to say, the habits. So they are very careful and give them special attention when they transport them. You know, some are more less mobile, some of them like to carry more bags, some of them, you know, everybody likes to sit, one likes to sit more in the window, or, you know, they have their little things. So it is a very personalized service, and it is safe, and it is a great option. So for somebody who lives in a community, if they come to the senior center, for example, or adult daycare, they have more options of doing things that day. Every service has its limits and up to some point, and its benefits and more than others. So that's the one I would point out.
Thanks
Yeah,
for that, Karen.
Charlene, I would agree with that. The biggest difference is the scope of who they serve. You know, a senior center is going to generally provide transportation to people going to that specific center. An assisted living's handling people that live in that facility. TOPS is a little different. You know, we operate from 4:30 in the morning till after midnight. It's not based on residence or trip purpose or destination. You know, we go anywhere in the county during all of those hours. You could be a visitor from out of state and come visit Broward County and use TOPS if you're eligible where you come from. So we have a much more open system under the American with Disabilities Act. And for our transportation disadvantaged individuals, we provide much more service, 7 days a week, holidays. You know, if your family's living in an assisted living and you want to get them home for Christmas dinner, you know, it's one of our busiest days of the year. TOPS is open, they're running. To have transportation 20 hours a day, you know, I love telling the story that on a Friday or Saturday night, the busiest time for us is midnight, people leaving the Hard Rock. You know, without TOPS,
Right.
they wouldn't be able to do that. And so some of these local neighborhood shuttles, they're great. They bring you to the Publix to get your groceries back home, or they're bringing you to and from these centers. But if you want to go to the bank, or if you want to go get your hair done or go out for dinner with friends and family, you know, that's where TOPS kind of takes over and allows that independence for a person with a disability or a senior citizen, that they can get on a bus, travel with their wife or husband, you know, on the same vehicle, and we'll bring you and drop you off and come back and get you later on. So for me, that would be the big difference in those two types of programs.
Great. Thanks for that clarification from both of you. Really appreciate it. Just a quick moment to remind folks, press 0 on your phone if you have questions, and you can post questions in the Zoom chat box in the Q&A. We do have another question. I have a feeling Danielle's going to want to weigh in on this, but before we ask the question, I just wanted to, my question earlier that I posted for the poll, the results for it were about 90% of the folks drive and about 10% take public transit or a community shuttle. So that's the results for 3. The question that came in, let me scroll up here. It's popped out of my view path and I want to repeat it. Let's see here. Are Uber and Lyft viable options for persons with disabilities? Danielle, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, they're viable options, but depending on the severity of your disability, it's best. I recommend that you take someone along with you if it's your first time using Uber or Lyft, so you could learn what it's like, have someone shadow you so you know how you feel throughout the ride. Because the one thing about Uber and Lyft is not all of the drivers are trained to deal with people or seniors with disabilities. And there's some drivers that want to learn, but they just don't know how to help with the mobility equipment, how to fold the walker, or to close a wheelchair. And most of them don't have patience. And we're very lucky to have these options that we have in Broward. Because when I go to other counties and when I visit other counties, I tend to use Uber and Lyft because some of the counties throughout Florida have paratransit, but some of them don't have as many routes as we do throughout Broward. So if it was me and it was my first time, I would take someone along until I got used to the idea. Pick one or two destinations that you like to go to. There's also safety apps within the Uber and Lyft app that you could use to inform a caregiver of where you're going. And if you don't feel comfortable, there's a button, especially for Lyft and Uber, where you press down and it'll alert the authorities and they'll track your driver as well. I've only had to use that one time, and it really helped out a lot. So
Danielle,
just know your surroundings when you do take Uber or Lyft. Have someone shadow you if it's your first time, and know the different areas that you're going to. Know where a police station is. Know where a fire department is. Know where there's a safe place like a school, anywhere that's public. So if you get stranded or you need help, you know where to go for help.
some some great supportive information. Anyone else of our panelists would like to add to that?
Yeah, Charlene, I think TNC's
What's that?
are a transportation network company. It's generally the technical term for the Uber and Lyfts of the world. There are others out there as well. They can be a viable option for individuals, understanding that they're largely an unregulated service. They're a private operator. So, one of the biggest things I see individuals is it's much more expensive. They're going to charge the fare that they decide they want to get. We know that a lot of them use surge pricing, especially when there's maybe a shortage of drivers on a holiday night or some major event. Even now with the pandemic, they're short drivers, and I've seen news stories that surge pricing's become pretty regular, and charging a higher rate. So they're largely geared to an ambulatory person. Individuals that require power chair type service generally don't get that. Individuals with service animals, the person who asked the question earlier about bringing service animals on a TOPS bus, as Danielle mentioned, a lot of Uber drivers are using their personal vehicles and don't get the proper training on how they're supposed to react to somebody with a service animal. And I've seen denial of service for that. So, it's out there. A lot of people, it's one of the biggest questions I ask about, people hear public transit properties partnering with Uber and Lyft across the country for these things. I think it's possible to happen, but you got to have the right relationship. Every one of my drivers goes through level 2 fingerprinting background checks in Broward County. It's done by the County Consumer Protection Division. So we know that they've been vetted. Every vehicle in TOPS is inspected by a county employee to make sure that the vehicle is safe. These things don't happen in the Uber Lyft world. They've removed themselves from some of those regulations. So they tell you they background check their employees, but we don't have access to those records. Me as a county employee here in our county, I can't say that driver's been vetted properly because I don't get to see that. I can tell you every one of mine are, but that's something to consider if you're using that as an alternative in our community.
Thank you for highlighting the value of peace of mind, Paul. That's incredibly important for the riders in paratransit. I know. I am going to ask Sean to assist. We have one more poll question and the housekeeping while Sean is working on that to assist me, if he would, please. We just want to remind folks to press 0 if you have a question to ask one of our panelists. And then after we finish the poll question, we'll go ahead and we're coming down to the end here. So we'll do a wrap up of this evening. So our poll question is ready. And the question is, do you think the services discussed tonight would be beneficial to you or a loved one? Again, the question is, do you think the services discussed tonight would be beneficial to you or a loved one? 1, yes. 2, no. 3, not sure. Again, the question is, do you think the services discussed tonight would be beneficial to you or a loved one? You can answer 1 as yes, 2 as no, and 3 as not sure. Those answers are coming in. While that's going on, we'll give it just a moment. We've got our house coming. Oh, here we go. Looks like it's wrapping up. Or we'll give that just a moment longer. Thanks for your patience, folks. And Sean, I'm not able to see the results. If those are done, could you share that so we can go ahead and begin our wrap up?
Certainly. So about 60% of the audience tonight found that this was beneficial to themselves or to a loved one. About 35% said they're not sure, and about 5% said no.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Let's see. Again, housekeeping, press 0 if you have a question. You can type your question into the Q&A panel in Zoom. So our final question for the evening, we'll get to that shortly. Let's go ahead. I want to come back and see if we've got some more questions that are pending in the queue. Let me close this out and come back over to here. Let's see. Here's a great question. What does the future look like for the services that are provided or that you need? I think maybe the first, does that question make sense to the to our presenters? What does the future look like for the services that you provide or that an individual may need? Let's maybe phrase it that way.
Sure. Well, what I see for the TOPS program is it's going to continue to grow. You know, for me, looking at our population in Broward County is a little over 1.9 million people. They've forecasted over the next 30 years for it to grow upwards to 2.4 million people. 31% of our population is a person with a disability or a senior citizen. Those are some of the fastest growing demographics in our area. So, you know, we need to continue to have the resources to meet the growing needs, evolve the program through ever-changing technology, whether it's autonomous vehicles, alternative fuel vehicles, electric vehicles. So just ensuring that we've got the resources in place to meet this growing population for our region, you know, in the years to come.
Great, thank you for that, Paul. One more quick question. We have George from Sunrise asking, he would love to go to the October 15th walk in Dania Beach for the Lions Club event. He wants to know if paratransit brings people to events like this.
Absolutely. Again, as long as he is eligible for TOPS and he can give us a destination to drop them off at and pick them up from, as long as it's in, you know, our service area, we'd be happy to do it.
Okay, great. And there was a question that came in. One more, let's see. Paul, it touched a little bit on what you were just discussing in terms of what the future looks like for services that you're being provided. So we know there's been a penny for transportation surtax. Is that having any impact on paratransit now or in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, one of the big pledges by the Broward County Commissioners during the planning of the surtax before it was put on the ballot was to improve our transportation. You know, that was a large piece of it. We heard it loud that it passed so easily on the ballot. And so just in the first couple of years of it being in place, we've been able to leverage the penny sales tax revenue to add 210 vehicles currently I believe the number is, to the paratransit fleet, which, lowers the average age of the fleet to make them more dependable. We've been able to invest in alternative fuel technology to lower the operating cost of the TOPS program. And the surtax is there to help balance the budget. We've got funding sources throughout the county through ad valorem tax and other things like that. The surtax is there to fill that gap of when we need more money than those sources were allowed. This is going to help us continue to forward fund and fully fund the paratransit need over the next 30 years.
Wonderful. We're going to let that be our last question for the evening. So because we have one more poll question, Sean, if I can get your assistance again, just to load that up. And the question is, was the information provided tonight useful? Well, our audience is answering the question, and the answers would be 1 for yes, 2 for no, and 3 for not sure. I would like to give each of our panelists just a moment to share some final thoughts on our discussion this evening. If we could start with Danielle, if there's anything that you would like to add, if you have a takeaway from the discussion, please, if the three of you, we could just round table, and then we'll wrap this up with your comments, and then I'll give the answer for the poll, please.
My 3 points would be, we are very blessed to have as many options as we do, especially with the paratransit system. I, for one, use it daily, and when I am in Broward County, I use it as well, and I feel safe and comfortable. 2 is, if there's travel training available, if it's your first time using paratransit or any other transportation option, Broward County Transit has a travel training program, as well as some of our nonprofit agencies like Anstork Center, and Aging of Broward, Agency for Persons of Aging of Broward and Disability Resource Center may have something available for seniors. And so take advantage of those programs that help you work and be a part of your community, because transportation is key to everything.
Thanks, Danielle. Karen, would you like to add any final thoughts, takeaways?
Yes, thank you. I would like to encourage all older adults to really take a minute to think about this option, because yes, you are not as flexible as when you have a vehicle, but I can tell you this opens way many options for you to get to different places. And by the time you give up your vehicle, you also have less expenses. You don't have to spend in gas. You don't have to spend in insurance. You can go in many more places at different times where you weren't able to go when you were driving. You don't need to look for parking. They drop you off. So it is, the benefits are way bigger than the small minor downsides that it might have, that you don't have somebody who picks you up at 8 sharp and brings you back at 9 sharp. But I mean, what's the rush? A little to wait a little bit makes no difference, and you have so many more benefits. Try it out for a little while, and you'll see it opens a whole new world for you. And like Danielle says, transportation, Broward County is blessed with all the different options, this type of options, to allow older adults and people in general, because we're a subcontractor and we provide older adult transportation, but they're for all ages. So I speak for my population, and I want to say, please take a minute and consider it, because it is really worthwhile doing it, and you will not regret making that decision. So
Thanks,
thank you
Karen.
for having us.
Sorry about that, Karen. Paul, take it away.
Coming from a major city like Boston, very urban environment, and having a paratransit system up there, when I came to Broward County, what I saw was such a difference in the demographics of the people that we serve here. And so having a local leadership that so thoroughly supports a transportation system that values mobility for all of its individuals, regardless of age, young, seniors, what have you, and to have the types of resources that we have available to us. I see this program continuing to grow and evolve into a transportation system that's going to be there so that individuals can age in place at their home. They have the independence of not relying on other family members to drive them around, so that they can be inclusive in the day-to-day activities, not just going to a daycare center, not just doing anything like, but to have a full life and be able to go out, and whether it's education, social, employment, they should have the ability to decide when and where they want to go. And I see us moving in that direction here in Broward County. And these types of, meetings allow us to get that message out, explain what we do, get feedback from individuals, and that helps me plan, what we want this program to be moving forward. So I really appreciate the opportunity to speak and be part of this tonight. Thank you.
Absolutely, Paul, and you're correct. Education is critical. It's key. And all of you have done a wonderful job this evening participating as presenters. We're really grateful to you. I just have, Sean, if you could just give us the final results for that poll, I would be grateful. And then I'll make our closing comments. Thank you, folks, for sticking with us just these couple extra minutes. We apologize. We're just about done now.
Yep, certainly. So the vast majority of audience members, about 85, 90% this evening, found the information helpful. And let's see, about 10% or so found it, that weren't sure if it was helpful to them. So
okay, well, we've got
was our
phone
last
numbers.
polling question. Yeah.
So we've got phone numbers for people to call. So I would like to say thank you on behalf of the Broward MPO for staying on the call and participating in the polls and asking your questions. Thank you, each of you, for being a part of our discussion this evening. If you did not get your question answered, we will be sending you to our voicemail system, and then a member of our team will get back with you. Thank you. Stay safe and good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.